more like you, more like you. Sculpted and molded, tried and true. More like you, more like you, baby, more like you. Our reading for the day, we are reading from the book by Ayanna Von Sant, Spiritual Hygiene. And we are also here to say Happy Father's Day to all of you wonderful, amazing fathers out there who's doing the dang thing or who has done the dang thing. Happy Father's Day. I hope today is a day that returns everything that you have poured out. Yeah, today's a very honorable day. That shouldn't be taken lightly. So many times I've heard that we honor the mothers in such a beautiful way. And then when it comes time for Father's Day, it's like we give them the leftovers. Well, I hope you don't get just leftovers today. I hope that you get all that's due, all the honor that's due, equal, if not more, than, what the mothers get, because parenting is hard and it's a very honorable thing. And I think it is worthy of celebration and, observing. And so I hope today brings you all of the joy that your hearts can hold, my fathers. And especially for those who have been fathers to those who maybe you didn't even give birth to or seed, right? That's very honorable too. Parenting someone who you may not have given birth to. And so just to start off today, I just like to take a moment to acknowledge and express this beautiful day, Father's Day, for all of you that will pass by. Yeah, today's your day. And so I take my hat off to you, my fathers. And so welcome to Blood Moon Oracle. My name is Leticia. And if you have your books, we are starting on page 251. And this is chapter 13, called Holy, Holy, or it's called Whole, Holy, and Home, where last week we talked about, the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about our core and the importance of understanding what that is and the importance of being connected to that. Last week we talked about what happens when we get disconnected and certain things that can disconnect us and keep us stagnant, and how that takes a toll on us spiritually, energetically, emotionally, maybe sometimes even physically. And then this week, we're talking about living from that space, right? Becoming aware, having tools to come back into alignment with that core, and then living from that space, that center part of our being. And so I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. And all of these videos, if you haven't watched the last one, you can go back and watch it. This playlist is free. And so all of the videos that we've done up to this point are all in the playlist. Spiritual Hygiene, you can go back and watch any of them at any point in time. If you enjoyed one particular or one was particularly helpful, you could always revisit that video as well. And so, as you know, we always start off with a prayer or a meditation, however you want to see that. And we are going to do that right now. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you feel led, if you're enjoying this. You may, if you're just now coming across the page, Blood Moon Oracle, you could definitely subscribe. If you find yourself subscribing for the first time, feel free to hit the bell so you'll be notified whenever I post new content. And so, yeah, welcome, love bugs. Let's get started here. And so the opening prayer for today is pretty much the same one as last week, because this is the second half of what we were talking about last week. And so I just chose to cut it in half just so we can kind of take a moment to digest before going into a place where we're able to live from that center part of our being. But the opening prayer today says, Beloved Divine Presence, seat of all rhythm, keeper of all truth, if I have given my time to what dims me, if I have spent my energy without intention, if I have tried or tied my soul to unspoken pain or broken sacred trust with my own spirit, I now ask to be forgiven. I ask you to return to me, or to return me to presence. I ask you to return me to truth. I ask you to return me to my center, where my soul speaks clearly. Let every place within me that has been scattered, neglected, or disguised be called home by you. May I not fear the mirror of self-awareness. May I not run from the weight of what I have carried. I ask that this be a time of release, where the fog lifts, where the hooks are unfastened, and the altar of my heart is restored to truth. I declare this now. I am not my habits. I am not the disconnection. I am not the past distortions. I am the living light of the divine, cleansing and clearing the temple of my soul. I am ready to begin again. Okay. Amen. Ashe, aho. And so it is. Is anyone ready to begin again? If that's you, put a like down below, or put a I am down below if you're ready to begin again. So as we go into chapter 13, this is page 251. It's called Whole, Holy, and Home, Living from Your Core. Okay. And let's begin. You have known it all along, even without words. There are truths you've carried since before you could name them. They lived in your bones, in your breath, in the way you looked at the stars or wept at beauty long before you understood why. You've known it all along, not with language, but with resonance. It was why you pulled away when something felt wrong. You felt it in the peace you experienced near water. You felt it around certain people, or in the moments of silence when something holy passed through you like wind. You may not have had the words, but your soul recognized the frequency. The truth was there, waiting for your awareness to catch up. That is the nature of this spiritual core. It remembers what the mind forgets. It holds the truth until you're ready to live it. You do learn it. You remember it when you lose it, hear it, or even smell it. You know it's your core when these things happen. Before you could name it, you lived it, right? You know it's your core. You've held this belief through multiple seasons of life, right? You know that this is your core. Or it speaks without effort and lives without permission. It's just natural, right? You don't even have to try. It's your core. Even in silence, it feels louder than your fears, right? That's your core. You feel it in your body, not just your mind. Like you feel it in your body. That's your core. Or it anchors you, especially during times of chaos, right? That's your core, okay? You ever felt peaceful in the time of a storm? Like everybody else could be just like freaking out and crashing out all around you, and you just have this inner peace like, yeah, I see it too, but I mean, that's your core. You're grounded in your core. So let's talk about these, okay? The first one was you feel at peace when you act in alignment with it. You feel at peace when you act in alignment with peace. There's a kind of peace that does not and cannot come from getting everything right. This is not the perfectionism type of peace. This peace comes from what feels true and authentic to who you are. Remember that story that she told us earlier about leaving her law office for good that one day? She just walked away from everything. Well, it was more complicated than that. It might have seemed like a quick antidote, right? She left her career. She fought hard for. She became a professional when the odds were against her. She had 3 kids to support on her own. But little beknownst to her, spirit had bigger plans for her, much bigger plans. When her friend called her to create a program for women who were going from welfare to work, she developed a program. She would write these worksheets to teach them things like how to do breath work and prayer and meditation, along with practical things like how to fill out a job application or create a resume. After about a year and a half, she had a ton of material that she had put together. And then she says, I shared it with another friend and they told me, that's a book. There's a lot of people that ain't on welfare that need it. I need it. So I put everything together, took it to Kinko's. While I was there printing it out, a woman noticed it and told me I could self-publish it. So I did. Tapping the Power Within, my first book, was a workbook I made for women going from welfare to work. I went to Black bookstores and sold it on consignment, and eventually an agent called me and asked if I wanted to publish it formally with Harlem River Press. Once it was published formally, I got invited to do a conference, many conferences, and present my book to different audiences. Eventually, a reader picked it up and shared it with Oprah Winfrey. None of this was easy. There were times, and there still are times, when I didn't know where or when I'd get my next paycheck. But if I hadn't listened to Spirit, I wouldn't have had the opportunities to touch millions of lives. Spirit has dictated everything I do since. Ooh, I understand that. It's directly supplied the words for every book I've written from that point forward. All credit to Spirit, listening and following. When your actions align with your core, there is no residue, no regret, and no need to explain. You may feel fear, discomfort, or consequence, but underneath it all is a quiet stillness that says you are honoring and loving yourself. The peace doesn't demand applause. It's a clean feeling, a settled feeling, like your breath finally knows where to land. That peace is evident that you have moved into resonance with your spiritual core. You know it's a core, yes, when you feel clear afterwards, even if the choice was hard. You know it's your core. Or you sleep soundly at night, breathe more deeply, and don't need to justify your decisions. You know it's your core. Or if you don't second guess, you just know when you are done. That's your core. You may feel more like yourself, more than you have ever before. That's your core. And lastly, it doesn't feel dramatic. It just feels right. That's your core. And then she says, it feels less like thought and more like knowing. Okay. When it feels less like thought and more like just knowing. Your spiritual core does not speak in logic or layers. It speaks with clarity and resonance, with a knowledge that settles in your bones before your mind has time to catch up. You know it is not a debate. It is a truth you recognize. You don't arrive at it through reasoning. You arrive by remembering. This is not the knowing you argue for. It's the kind you rest in. It is quiet and undeniable. It rises to the surface when you stop thinking long enough to feel what has been true all along. It doesn't beg for confirmation. It does not need a second opinion. It rises quietly, like a warm light through your chest, or tears that come without reason. You know it's a core. Yes, when it doesn't need to be explained, right? You just know it's your core. Or when it settles you rather than excites you, that's your core. Or it feels more ancient than new, more familiar than explained. It's almost like doing a thing that you've never done before, but you somehow kind of know what to do. Like there's an innate operation, an innate connection or feeling about it. You just know, and you don't know how. There's something ancient arising in that moment, and that's your core. It arrives quickly, quietly, and deeply. That's your core. And lastly, you no longer need words to carry it. It carries you. That's your core. Okay. And then the last one she is exemplifying is core beliefs are sacred agreements. Okay. Core beliefs. That's what we're talking about. Core beliefs. These are sacred agreements. And so she says there's a man named Donald who always said yes. Yes to overextending himself. Yes to being quiet, going along to get along. Yes to what made others comfortable, until one day he felt a tension in his chest that was so tight it hurt to breathe. He had been asked once again to help someone in a way that violated his values and his peace. This time he paused. He remembered his core belief. My peace is sacred. This time he said, no, I can't do that right now. No anger, no excuse, no performance, just the truth. When he realized he was shaking, he began to weep. He had disappointed somebody. Oh my goodness. They would be mad at him. When he told the story, I asked him, how did you feel afterwards? He said, for the first time in my life, I felt clean inside. That is what it means to live from the spiritual core. Once you begin to recognize your spiritual core, the next sacred act is to name the truths that live within it. These truths are your core beliefs. To name your core beliefs is not to recite what you have been taught. It is to claim what you know in your bones. This is not about what we've been taught or how we've been trained or, coerced to act, right? This is what naturally flows from within. This is like what lives at a core level, even down to your bones. It is to gather the soul-etched truths that have carried you through pain, pulled you through silence, and called you back when you had almost forgotten yourself. Your core beliefs are not opinions. They are not habits of thought. They are the spiritual agreements you made with life, God, and self before your soul had a body to cover it, right? This is who you are before you even came into the world. Can you fathom that? We're talking about that level of core beliefs. We are a soul wrapped in flesh, right? This is who you came to be. This is who you were before you even entered into the world, if you can conceive that. Some were born through fire, some through stillness, some through grief, some through sacred remembrance. They are the truths that rise when everything else falls away. To name them is to say, this is what I know to be true. No matter what the world says, no matter who walks away, naming your core beliefs is a holy act of reclamation, clarity, and sovereignty. It is a good spiritual hygiene. I love that. I love that. Oh, my soul is screaming right now. So we're going to take a sacred pause right there. And we're going to ask to just close our eyes for a moment and take a deep breath in. Release it very slowly. Place your hand over your heart. Think of a time when you were betrayed, but you still believed in love. Think of a time when you were grieving, but you still felt comforted. Think of a time when you were unsure or uncertain, but you still told the truth. And ask yourself, what truth carried me through that moment? That truth is likely your spiritual core. Naming your core beliefs is like excavating an inner altar. It requires honest listening and spiritual stillness. It's not a mental exercise. It is more like an archaeological dig. You cannot name your core beliefs by thinking harder. You name them by feeling deeper and by remembering the truths that have whispered to you through your grief, through your joy, your silence, and your periods of transformation. Naming your core beliefs is not about identifying your personality or defining your preferences. It's about locating the truths you've carried across lifetimes, the ones that rise when the noise falls away, the ones that do not shift based on applause, belonging, or ease. To name your core beliefs is to say, this I know, even when I doubt everything else. This I believe, even if nobody else agrees. This I remember, even though no one ever taught it to me. Your core truths live in the body. When you speak one aloud, you breathe softer, or your breath softens. Your soul says yes. Naming your spiritual beliefs core is an act of sovereignty. You are no longer borrowing beliefs you may have inherited. You are reclaiming what is already yours. And so there's a few practices, reflective practices, that can help reveal and name core beliefs that we hold. Kind of like the activity we just did by closing our eyes and taking a deep breath, placing our hand over our heart, and asking ourselves questions like, what do I know about whatever, yada, 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 fill that blank. Or and asking maybe God, source, or spirit, however you see your source or your higher power. This could be asking, like, what is that for you? How does that show up? Or how does that relate to you at your core? You could be asking about your soul and its purpose. Like, we've all been brought here to do a thing, right? Or you could be asking, what is it that heals you and what harms you, right? You could be asking, what do I feel and believe about love? What do you feel and believe about truth or death or forgiveness? What do you believe about freedom? You can also ask, what matters to you most, regardless of culture or conditioning? What is it that remains when everything falls away, right? You may write or record the responses when you get the answer to these questions. This is where remembrance becomes responsibility, where clarity becomes embodied choice, where your yes becomes sacred and your no becomes sovereign. Once you begin to name your core beliefs, the truths that lie beneath surface performance, the embodied fear or expectation, the next sacred invitation is to live from them. Living from your core beliefs mean using them as a filter. You pass your decisions, relationships, words, and actions through it, through that filter, asking not, will this make me acceptable? But is this aligned with what I know to be true? In other words, what I just said, this becomes your filter when you ask these questions, and you begin to filter your decisions through it, your actions, your words, your relationships, right? Through this filter, and you stop asking, will this make me acceptable? And you start to ask, is this aligned with what I know to be true? And I'm gonna stop right there because that's hitting on something for me today. Huge, right? Huge. You stop doing things and looking for ways to become acceptable, right? And you many times find yourself passing up things that maybe the old you would have gladly received. But now that you have come into alignment with your core, now you know what that is. You begin to filter your life through that. It's almost like you put on the magic glasses and you see everything through that energy or that reality of your core beliefs. And people, for the life of them, can't understand, like, why and they may call it weird, right? Why you're so weird or set off or different, right? Or maybe why you don't align like everybody else is because maybe you see things different or you process things different, or maybe this is why you're very connected to your core and you filter everything through that, right? It's no longer about being accepted or what looks good, right? But it's about what is truly aligned with what you know to be true. Okay, going back to what she was talking about, having peace is huge. Like money can't buy peace. I know that to be true. Popularity can't buy peace either. And so sometimes there is a call to stand. But first, you have to know what you're standing for, right? Someone who stands for everything falls for anything. And when you don't know what you stand for, you can also fall for anything too. But this is where spiritual hygiene becomes essential. That's what we came here for, okay? Knowing your core beliefs keeps you grounded within yourself in a world filled with noise, driven by demands that can subtly erode your truth by compromising that quietly undermine your alignment. I'm going to read that again. Knowing your core beliefs keep you grounded within yourself in a world filled with noise, driven by demands that can subtly erode your truth by compromises that quietly undermine your alignment. Without consistent spiritual hygiene, you begin to drift from your core, even while praying, serving, or doing the work. Your core remains, but the connection grows foggy. Your truth lives, but you stop hearing it. And so this is tricky, is what she's saying, because you can be performing and doing all the stuff that you would normally do and be so disconnected, right? And we've talked about that. But it's very easy for your connection to go cold when you feel ineffective, frustrated, invalidated in your efforts to be your divine self. But remember, your core is not asking you to be the mega influencer or a millionaire. It's not asking you to be that. Your core is simply asking you to be you, your authentic self. When you are connected to it and surrender to it unequivocally, your path will be revealed. Your core is simply asking you to be you. When you are connected to it, your core, and you surrender to it, your core, unequivocally, that means nothing compares to the surrender to this truth that arises within you. When that happens, your path will be revealed. And again, it's not easy, and it's not the common path, right? This is the less traveled path. Whether your impact resonates with one person, one neighborhood, or around the world, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is that you are standing in your core, simply being you, right? That's the call. Okay. Now, what does still matter? She talks about letting your rituals reflect your core. We talked about a lot about rituals too, about the things that we commit our time to, looking at the things that we hold, our resources, and being responsible with that. We talked about that last week too. We talked about our money, our time, and our energy were the major three resources that we talked about last week, and how important that is and how that points to what we hold significant when it comes to our core. If we look at those three things, it'll tell us what's really important to us. And now we're going to talk about letting our rituals reflect our core. So when we look at spiritual hygiene, it's about staying clear enough to live what you know. Okay. It's not enough just to know, but we have to take action on what we know. It is how you clean the inner altar so that your decisions are not made from old pain, performance patterns, or external programming. It is the daily practice of returning to what is real. Ooh, this is heavy for me. I had a moment yesterday. I'm gonna just pause right there. And I was in deep thought about some things, and I was like, I need to get clear on this. And so I had to take a moment to just stop and turn the music off and stop moving, and just allow myself to connect on a deep level, to get to the heart of the matter, like to get back to what is real, what's tangible, what I know that I know that I know. Sometimes we get carried away from that in the midst of everything happening. And we live in a world today where the information is rampant. Like it's coming at us 100 miles an hour, right? Every time you look at your phone, every time you go outside, there's a billboard, there's something that's feeding information and giving us suggestions. And it's like we live in one big advertisement. That's why it's necessary to stop and go within, like to get clear on what is your truth. What is it that you know to be true? I had one of those moments yesterday that I have to stop and sit down and like come back to myself. And that's exactly what I did. And yeah, I walked away from that experience in that moment clear. It's necessary. That's what it means to cleanse, and not just one time, but we should be doing this often, stopping, separating ourselves from all of the riffraff of the day and all of the rigmarole, the routines, all of those things that, yeah, we have to go to work because we got to live. Yeah, we got to take, the kids back and forth to school. We got to go to the grocery, all of these things that are necessary to live. But beyond that, taking time away regularly to get clear, to make sure that we are aligned with our truth, with our core. I had that moment yesterday. It just felt really heavy. And I had to sit down and like bring myself back to my core. It's so easy to slip away. That's what she's talking about. Living from your core does not simplify your life. We're not talking about perfection or simplicity, but it means you become rooted and grounded, right? Like a tree planted by living waters that bring forth fruit in its season, and everything will prosper, right? It means you become rooted. You stop bending with every hard wind that passes through. You stop chasing what you need. You become it. With spiritual hygiene, when spiritual hygiene is practiced daily, it keeps the altar of your life clean enough to hear what your soul is always saying, okay? This is who I am. This is what I am here for. This is the next most appropriate step for me, right? That's what this is all about. Staying clear and grounded so that we stay aligned with our purpose, whatever we've come here to do. Not that you're always going to be there. This says that we need to do this often so that we do stay there, because we're so easily pulled away from that plumb line. Your spiritual core is the voice of God, source, creator, however you see your higher power within you. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Your spiritual core is the voice of God, source, creator within you, right? Within you. That means you're not waiting for somebody to come and tell you what that is, what your truth is. That is within you. It's innate within you. Your core is the map you were born with. This is what you came into the world with. Your core beliefs are the turn-by-turn directions you will need to move through your life. It is not necessary to find these things. You only must remember them, honor them, and return to them again and again. Understanding your core means recognizing where it came from, how it guides you, what happens when you betray it, and the patterns you've built around it or away from it. To honor your core means pausing before making a choice or a decision, to honor it, okay? Speaking from your core rather than surrendering to fear and refusing to compromise your yes or your no. If your core belief is my peace is sacred, offering a half-hearted yes to a draining commitment is not in alignment. Listen. If your core says the truth is sacred, avoiding confrontation is not in alignment with your beliefs. Listen. It's going to make you speak your truth. Once you have found your core and identified the beliefs that reside there, it is good spiritual hygiene to repeat and practice them daily. Okay. So we're talking about rituals, things that keep us connected to our core. If your core truth is, I am not alone, light a candle for your ancestors daily. Okay. Yes, I like that. If your core truth is, I am love, tend to your heart space with gentleness. Okay. I received that too. If your core truth is, my voice matters, write, speak, or create something regularly. Allow your creativity to flow from the inside out. We're talking about rituals. Ritual is how your core belief becomes visible in your life. It is an outpouring of what is within you. Living from your core is not perfunctory act. It's not a perfunctory act. It is a practice of presence, choice, and sacred return. Okay. It is the practice of honoring your boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable. It is the choice to tell the truth, even if your voice shakes. It is a consistent practice to clean up energy debts immediately. That means apologizing, forgiving, and realigning when necessary, as often as needed. And you feel that, right? These are prompts that come from within. It'll tell you when something is off and when you need to go clean something up or take some act, right, to cleanse something. When you are in true core alignment, when your thoughts reflect your beliefs and your words honor your truth, your actions protect your peace and your energy moves from integrity. Okay. From top to bottom, from head to toe, from side to side, all four corners of the earth. I'm going to read that again. That means apologizing, forgiving, and realigning when necessary, as often as needed. You are in true core alignment when your thoughts reflect your beliefs, when your words honor your truth, when your actions protect your peace, and your energy moves from integrity. Okay, I love this. So we have a core alignment checklist. Living from your core and honoring your core beliefs doesn't have to be hard. Okay. I don't think it starts that way though. It's kind of like when you first decide that you need to start working out. Like when you first started, it's like, okay, what do they say? I think they say it's like 21 days to create a habit within your body where you get used to doing it. And it's not as, you don't have to put as much effort. It's almost like your mind is aligned with your body after about 21 days. In the beginning, I think you may need to put a lot of effort into it, but after so long, it just becomes something that flows from within, especially if it's aligned with your truth. It may not start out hard, right? But it could. It doesn't have to be, though. Consistent practice is required, and that practice will take time to master. One of my things is alone time. Like I can always tell when it's time for me to pull apart and go, cleanse or go and pour back into myself, go get quiet, get still. I could just feel it in my energy, right? Because I have created that practice. I've created that ritual. And so when I don't do it, my body, my energy, my mind, it lets me know there's something unsettled within me until I do that, right? It's almost like when you're used to sleeping at a certain hour and for some reason you haven't had any sleep in a couple of days, your body's like, okay, we need some sleep. And it's doing all these things, letting you know, right, that you ain't had no sleep lately. And so after so long, after following it, it just becomes easy, right? It no longer is looked at as a requirement, but it is. It's no longer looked at as something that you have to work at, but it's a requirement that becomes natural to your movement. So there's a list that she made. She considers it a gentle list, a sacred pause that you can use daily. It is an opportunity to recalibrate. I like that word, to recalibrate, right? And realign your mind, heart, and soul. The more often you do it, the sooner you will reclaim true ownership of the temple, the altar, and the sanctuary that you are. The first thing that she mentioned was inner truth. Okay. And these are questions around these particular areas that this checklist sometimes can help us to stay aligned or realize if we're still aligned, if we need to get recalibrated or realigned. So we look at inner truth. The first question is, did I speak or act from my truth today, even when it was uncomfortable? The second question is, did I feel a deep inner yes in the last one decision or interaction? The third question is, did I feel at peace after making a choice, even if others didn't understand it, especially as it pertains to having to say no, right? Because many people have many plans for us, and sometimes it doesn't align with what our purpose is, and we have to tell people no. It says nothing about the value of the person that we're saying no to. It just says that I don't believe that is aligned for me. And so, no. And sometimes we have to be okay with that, with letting people down, you know? Or sometimes it'll be accepting something or saying yes to something that others may not agree with, but it may very well be aligned with our purpose. And it may very well have everything to do with the peace that will be established for us now and moving into the future, despite everyone else's inability to understand, how that aligns. We have to sometimes choose ourselves, even if that sometimes means we'll lose things or people. I'd rather have peace, right? Peace of mind. You can't buy that. Okay. I don't know if you've ever had a stressful period in your life where you did have sleepless nights, and it's like whatever this thing that you were carrying, heavy, burdensome thing, didn't allow you to sleep because all you could think about was that. And it's like, dang, I have not actually had a good night's sleep for like a week or two, right? And you could be very well taken care of physically. That don't have nothing to do with you not being able to sleep, right? And not having a solid mind, right? You can't buy peace. That's something that is cultivated from within and from being aligned with your mind, heart, body, soul, your actions, right? And so your inner truth is one area on the checklist when we look at the core alignment. The next one is emotional integrity. Did I allow myself to feel honestly without pushing emotions away? Oh, I love that. Did I avoid over explaining or apologizing for my truth? Okay. Did I check in with my body and ask, is this true for me? Yeah. Emotional integrity. I like that. And many of us may have never even heard of that term. I did a video not too long ago about EQ. Kind of like we know what IQ is. It's intelligent quotient. EQ is emotional quotient. It's like how they measure intelligence, right? Did you know that you could actually measure emotion? And this is part of aligning with our core, right? Being able to be emotionally aligned or emotionally intelligent. In this case, having emotional integrity, being tapped in to what's happening emotionally and being honest. When we look at integrity, we're talking about honesty, fairness, truth, right? Are we aligned with our emotions in that way? And this is a big one too, because sometimes life can get rough. Like, I don't think I've always been emotionally integrous. There's some things that have happened that's been very painful where I did push my emotions away. I walked through a major part of my life numb. There's certain things that people, bring up. They're like, you remember this and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, no, when did that happen? Right. There were points in my life where I was like numb and just like kind of like a walking zombie emotionally. And because of that, right, definitely was not aligned with my core, right? Because I wasn't even really awoke to myself. There was a whole part of me that was incapacitated. So there was no way that I could be aligned. And so, yes, this is important. And some people may believe that you don't have to be responsible emotionally, but you do. If you want to align with your core, right? If you want to align in this way, when we're talking about spiritual hygiene, this is a part of that. Okay. This is a part of being whole. If anything is missing or not being addressed, we can't consider it whole because something's missing. So yeah, the emotional part is absolutely important. And I know sometimes it just feels safer not to be vulnerable, but we miss a lot too because we refuse to be vulnerable. There's a whole part of life that's passing us by. And to think that you can never get those opportunities back because you chose not to be vulnerable is unfortunate, but sometimes that is the reality of it. Okay. Time waits for no man. Time waits for no woman. And so there's some things that you will not be able to experience just because it just passed by and you were not emotionally open to experience that. And so this is huge. That's what I'm saying. This is really huge. And when we talk about things like love and being hurt, I don't know if it's worse to not love at all or to be hurt. Like, at least you can feel, at least you can experience, even if it didn't turn out the way that you had hoped, at least you were able to have that experience. And so this is a big one too. The next one is sacred boundaries. Did I say no when needed and without guilt? Did I refrain from people pleasing and shape shifting to be accepted? Did I honor my own energy and needs with compassion? Okay. Yeah, this is huge. This is huge. Setting good boundaries. And this could, mean the difference between being able to sense that peace within yourself and not going against your own grain. I think this is like an internal integrity that we have to hold ourselves accountable to. Can you say no without feeling guilty? It's something that I'm learning, to really be honest, and just a vulnerable moment, because I swing, across the pendulum. Either I'm super like, no, get out of my face, like shutting everything and everybody down, or I could be super, open and accepting and just lacking boundaries. But to have that middle section, it's like, okay, let's think about this. Like, if I say yes, like, how will this benefit? Would this cross, something within me integrally and cause me to feel like I am deceiving myself? My battery's charging. Or can I say yes and still feel good about the decision that I've made and not feel like I have just deceived myself, And so it's taking the time to stop and evaluate what's happening within, when we're making decisions and setting boundaries. Am I doing this to shut people out, right? So I don't have to deal with it, or, and so there's a lot that happens when we're setting boundaries. But it's taking the time to sort those things and not just doing it without cause or reason, without exploring the deeper aspects of what's happening within us and where we're operating from. Are we afraid that if we say no, okay, they're not going to like me? Is that why you're saying no? Like, it's really exploring the deeper aspects of why we're doing a thing. The next one is spiritual hygiene. Did I pause to clear my energy field today? Today, every day. Or for some of us, we need to do it several times a day, especially if you are empathic and you absorb energy. Like, oh my gosh, sometimes you get to the point where you just feel the weight of the world and you're like, what did I do? Like, okay, where did all this come from? Why do I feel so heavy? That means you need to go and cleanse and release. Like, you're carrying a bunch of stuff that's not yours to carry. And you may or may not have even invited that in. Like, you may just be like an energetic sponge. But spiritual hygiene invites you to pause and clear your energy field, if not once a day, many times through the day, mentally, emotionally, and sometimes physically. Like, one of the things that I love to do is walk. That helps me clear. I love to meditate too. I also love to do expressive things like, create or write or practice. Sometimes it's practicing my spiritual gifts that I'm able to release through that, especially as downloads come in. It's like, okay, I need to get this out. because it's going to stay in the back of my mind until I speak it, until I get it out. And so there's many ways we can do that, but there's some action that we do to pause to address that energy release. Did I make space for stillness, prayer, breath, or ritual, whatever that is? Okay. Did I release anything I was carrying that didn't belong to me? We just talked about that. All of those have to do with spiritual hygiene. And then lastly, core remembrance. Did I act in a way that reflects who I know I truly am? Can I see that in real time, in life, in how I'm acting, what I'm doing? Does that align with what I believe? Did I check in with my core before responding, committing, or reacting? Or did I feel connected to my own rhythm, my own values, and my own spiritual truth? Right? So in all these things that we're talking about, just remember, perfection is not the way to presence. Truth is, okay? Your truth, my truth, our truth. That's the way, okay, to presence. And so that was lesson 13. The reading for chapter 13, it was the second half of the chapter from last week that was separated in a whole nother chapter as we talked about how to live from this place. Once we find out where that is, what that looks like, what that feels like, how to stay there. Because when we're in our core, it's like everything is good. And it doesn't have so much to do with what's going on around you. It's like an inner peace. There's an inner alignment that feels unshakable, right? Everything is good. The question is, how do we stay there? Right? Sometimes we find ourselves like this, like, oh, it was good yesterday. Now all of a sudden today, I feel like the whole world is falling. And then tomorrow is good again. And then the next day it's like, oh, wait, I was just good yesterday. Why does this, right? But instead of being like this, the object is to be like this, right? Yeah, things are happening all around us, but it does not have to affect, our inner peace or how we're experiencing life. It's all about what we're talking about, a practical path for clean living, inner authority, and divine freedom. Sometimes we are being asked to speak for the storm to shut up, to stop, like go somewhere else, go distract somebody else, because this is not it, right? But if you don't know that you have divine authority, you can't speak to the storm. Right? You can't let the storm know. You're not supposed to come over here and disrupt this. I don't think so. Right? And so all of this have to do with knowing who we are, what we hold, what we're called to. It's not about perfection, but it's about understanding who you are. Truth, your truth. Okay. And so that was lesson 13. Again, Spiritual Hygiene is the book from Iyanla Vanzant. Amazing teacher, an amazing minister, an amazing coach and therapist. She's an amazing healer. Like, she holds many positions. She is multifaceted and a gift to the world. I believe she has been a gift to me. And I feel like we are called in this way. And I appreciate her so much for being so open and sharing her story and not sugarcoating it. Like, the parts that was really ugly, she paint them as ugly. Like, she didn't sugarcoat anything. It's like, this is what it is. Sometimes it takes all that to get to where we need to be. And I appreciate her. And so if you don't have it, go and support, right? Go and support. This book is probably going to be about $25, $30. You can get it from Barnes and Noble. Definitely is going to be a banger, right? This is a banger. And at some point you're going to need it, or it could be helpful for you. I don't care if you're religious. I don't care if you consider yourself spiritual. I don't care if you consider yourself, like you don't even believe in a higher power. You could be, I forget the name, when you don't believe in God or a higher power. But you could be any of those, and it could still be valuable for practical living, spiritual hygiene, because it's all about you recognizing your truth. You can very well live your truth without having to put it to words. Okay. You could. It's all about being true to yourself and allowing the innate parts of your being to come forward and to lead you. And so go get it. If this is something that interests you, it will definitely be worth the money. And it's definitely going to be something I feel like that's going to play a major role in where we are going, where we're headed. We need this in this day and time for the simple fact that we got it twisted. Okay, we got it twisted. Some of the things that we find to, even if we're standing in our authority, right, that does not mean that we have permission to abuse that authority, right? And to use it to hurt people or to use it to enforce a level of control, right? That's not what we're talking about here, because whenever we're given authority, there is a responsibility that comes along with that. And that's what I like about this. It does not just say, oh, tap into 10 ways to manifest your biggest desires, right? And leave it there. No, but there's a responsibility around that. Yeah, you can manifest, but there's like a healing that needs to be accompanied with that manifestation. You can manifest all day, but if you're not healed, you're not going to be able to maintain the manifestation anyway. At some point, it's going to leave because you haven't done the work to keep the manifestation that you are, preparing for. And so there's so many different aspects of what she's addressing that we need, because we live in such a quick do it society. Like, we don't want to work. We don't want to wait. We don't want to, pay for anything. We just want quick solutions, easy results, but we don't want to have to do anything to get it. Well, there is a cost for everything, whether you realize it or not. And so the way that she puts it, I'm very appreciative. A practical path for clean living. Like, what does it look like on the inside? Right? We're not talking about all that external stuff, all the glitz and the glitter, but what does it look like on the inside? Clean living. Can you sleep at night? Can you treat your neighbor right? Okay. Can you treat them as yourself in a way that you would want to be treated? Can you have patience for people that haven't come as far as you are? Clean living, inner authority. Do you know who you are? And divine freedom. Like, do you have the ability to step into places where you feel like you've been called, because it's purposeful? Her being an example. And she talked about it even in this chapter, how it was like a step-by-step trusting spirit to lead her. Even as it pertained to her walking away from everything she worked for 10 years prior. Can you trust spirit to lead you to where it is that you are being called, what you've been called to do in this lifetime? Okay. Understanding that you've been called for such a time as this, but what is that? And are you in position to do it? Right. And so that's all for today. And I was going to do a reading for Father's Day. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to name this the Father's Day message. It just seems so appropriate. And I am going to manifest that those that need to see it will come by and will be drawn to this video, and it will be, speak to them in ways that they need right now. And so it's going to be a timeless video. I am going to post it and label it maybe a little bit different, maybe not, but we'll see what Spirit says. But that's what we have. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Leticia. As always, it is a pleasure to read this book with you, to you, and let me know what you think. Okay, don't be shy. Comment. I appreciate you guys being vocal. Looks like it's coming along slowly but surely. I appreciate all the comments, whether it's resonating or not, just whatever. The fact that you've taken time to stop and comment is cool. So yeah, we'll see you next week. And thank you for stopping by. All right. As always, take care and take time this week, every day, to intentionally stop and clear. Okay. That's the assignment, to take time every day, at least once, to stop and clear. Let me know how that works for you, and we'll see you next week. Okay. All right. Bye.